you've broken your radius in your ulnar. So much so that in the road, my hand was cupping my elbow of the same arm.
Oh God, wow.
I was living in a static caravan in someone's garden. Once all my bills were paid, I was left with like not much. So I'd live on custard creams and cups of tea, breakfast, lunch and dinner until the next payday came. Any situation you're ever in, doesn't matter the situation. Any sentence that starts with unfortunately usually ain't gonna bode too well.
If your masculinity is that fragile that you can't handle having some purple eyeshadow and some lippy on, you might need to look at reevaluate there.
Once you leave this room, you're no longer insured to do anything military ever again, and including making cups of tea for anyone other than yourself.
Welcome back to the Not Quite Pod. Today we've got Dan with us. Dan, do you just quickly want to introduce yourself and let everyone know a bit about yourself?
Yeah, hello, I'm Dan. I am a right. What am I? I'm an amputee, but I'm more than that. So, I wear lots of hats, innit? So I do a lot of cycling. A model. I have a full-time job as well. I just like having a good time. So that's as good as I can give it, really. I always feel weird with these introductions because when in my own head, I can't help but unsee like something from Take Me Out or Blind Date or something.
Yeah.
So it's like introduce yourself. It's like, hi, I'm Dan, 38 from London. I'm not from London anymore. That's the thing. I've left.
It's hard, isn't it? Because particularly like creatives like ourselves, like I'm very similar to you, do a lot on the side, but also have a 9-to-5 job as well. And it's really hard to try and articulate what you do because it's like, it depends what time of the day you catch me as to what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's a minefield, isn't it? But each one of those little cogs plays a little part in the bigger machine that is, you know, me or you or whoever's listening or whatever the case may be. So it's about turning them cogs enough to make the bigger one work. So
definitely,
yeah.
Completely agree. One thing I did want to touch on was obviously your story this far. So could you give us a bit of a snapshot as to sort of where your sort of what it was like growing up to where you are now and sort of the journeys in between? Because I think that gives a lot of context for anyone listening that doesn't know you.
Yeah, sure. So I joined the army at a very young age, predominantly because I was surrounded by it growing up, and I wasn't steered into doing that. It was my dad was in it, and you know, I think I was about 8 years old when I just turned around to mum and dad one day and said, "When I'm old enough, that's what I want to do when I'm older." So, and like, I guess in a way it gave me a lot of direction through life, like certainly growing up, my formative years. And as I progressed through secondary school, whilst all of my friends were kind of umming and ahhing about what GCSEs to do and what college to get into, I was like, do you know what? I know what I want to do. I know who I want to be. And, you know, for the most part, I've got a pretty good, you know, educated idea of what I need to do to get there. So, and that was really how it panned out. The skeleton plan really was to finish my GCSEs on the Friday and start basic training on the Monday. It didn't pan out that way. So I left school and spent 18 months working at a well-known supermarket on various departments whilst I was going through the selection process to get into the British Army. And left home the first time for anything longer than a weekend at 17. And that became 10 years of my life. Joined a regiment called the King Street Royal Horse Artillery, so I rode horses with the end goal of becoming a farrier. What I wanted to do when I left, you know, that was just because Dad had said, if you're going to join the army, make sure you pick a trade. And so the trade was the farrier. Horses I knew nothing about, but I was quite keen to learn about, you know, blacksmithing and shoeing horses and so on. And so it was kind of a thing that I wanted to do and progress with, and, you know, looking sort of further afield when I would eventually leave the army. that's what I would do. That would be my career and my livelihood. Um, but before I tied myself down with that, I wanted to do. There's a kind of a saying that you hear quite often: is join the army, see the world.
Yeah.
Sort of being in a predominant ceremonial regiment, it doesn't have a frontline role. So I wanted those experiences before I tied myself down with that trade,
Hmm.
or even began entertaining that idea. And so in 2007, I went off to Afghanistan. I spent about 6, 7 months there. Um, I wasn't on the front line. I was sort of working with the indigenous population, um, and came back from there. Spent 6 weeks then trekking through Nepal in the Himalayas, um, and that took me to the end of 2008. And then, yeah, like 2009, May 2009, I was involved in one of the rehearsals for Troop in the Colour, the Queen's Birthday Parade,
Hmm.
and literally the following day, um, riding back to my barracks on my motorbike, a set of circumstances unfolded, and presented with a situation, I guess, which dictated the rest of my life. An arm and shoulder lighter. So that was the 31st of May 2009. So yeah,
Wow.
that took me up to and then 3 years afterwards when my military career ended.
Wow,
Yeah.
I didn't realize. Yeah, I didn't realize that. So, what did you do after in the military? What did you go in to do after your accident?
So I was presented with the option of leaving the military, given the severity of my injuries, and they were quite substantial. Not just the arm and shoulder amputated, but the accident should have killed me outright. But yeah, I was presented with the operation, the option to leave, and my attitude really was, how old was I? I was 23 at the time, so my attitude really was, look, this is all I've wanted to do growing up. I'm not going to let one bad day sort of dictate the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So it was when I woke up in hospital. I got told the news, what happened. The doctor came in, and it was very much like, you've been in a horrific motorcycle accident. You're very lucky to be alive. And it started at the bottom of my bed to sort of dish out the good news, as it were. So it said, you've got two broken ankles. The left one will need resetting with pins. Right, okay. So he came up the left hand side of my bed, and as he came up, my arm was sort of in a blue foam cast, and as I looked in it, there was external fixators like holding it together.
Mm.
Um, you've broken your radius and your ulnar like in several places. So much so that in the road, um, before I was airlifted, my hand was cupping my elbow of the same arm. So
Oh,
um,
oh God! Wow. Okay.
yeah, and they had to pull that straight before they put the drugs in. I can't remember any of this. It's just as well,
Yeah.
really. Um, and then he sort of walked back round to the bed, and I remember watching him go around. And then he came up. He came up the right hand side, and he was like, "But unfortunately," and like any situation you're ever in, doesn't matter the situation. Any sentence that starts with "unfortunately" usually ain't going to bode too well. So,
Mm.
unfortunately, after 6.5 hours of surgery, we were unable to save your right arm and shoulder. Um, and I think that's when it kind of hit home, really, like the severity of the situation that I've just sort of been presented with and found myself in. Um, because at such a young age as well, at 23, early 20s and whatnot, vanity is a massive part of your life. Like, it really is. Like, you're always wanting to look your best, to impress someone or whatever the case may be. And, you just sort of think, an arm and a shoulder's gone. I'm going to look, I'm going to look weird. Like, let's not beat
Yeah.
around the bush. Um, I'm going to look weird. Who's going to want me now? Yeah, no one's going to find me attractive. Like, I've just shit right out here. So, um, but then, and I'm aware that I'm digressing here. Sorry, but
That's all
then
right.
I remember sort of after I got that kind of blow, if you like, I remember like people were quite like, obviously a bit upset, more concerned about how I'm going to take this news. You know, my parents were there, there were representatives from the regiment there, and I just remember the nurse was just stood here, like in my bed to the left of me, and so I pulled her gown. She turned round. I don't remember much of hospital, but this, for whatever reason, I can remember verbatim. And I said, "Is the plumbing still attached and working?" And she went, "That's absolutely fine. You've got a catheter hanging out of it, but other than that, it's fine." I went, "Do you know what? Nothing else really matters, then, does it? It's people worse off than me."
Yeah.
Um, and it got a laugh. It got a few laughs. Looking back on that moment now, I can tie that down. I can tie that moment to being the moment I accepted my situation for what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to be a man with I'm going to be a man with one arm for the rest of my life. My arm is never going to come back. You know, whatever. Um, you can paint it as you know as many wonderful colours as you like, but it ain't ever coming back.
Yeah.
So I went right. So what's involved with this then? Because I was right and dominant as well. So yeah. So I just thought, let's get on with it. Like, this is the situation. I
Yeah.
can't whinge and moan about it. You know, I'm not a victim. There's no woe is me. Like, sympathy's all well and good, but I think it comes a point where you have to leave it and sort of get on with your life.
Yeah.
Um,
Out of
but don't get me
interest,
wrong. Yeah.
what's your opinion on like the change in the narrative when it comes to sympathy and like that whole stiff upper lip mentality? What's your perspective on that? Because I
I
think me and
think,
you are fairly similar.
yeah, no, sure. So I think sympathy is sympathy and safe spaces have their place, but I don't think they should be permanent dwellings. I think you have to leave them at some point. Like, if you look at how a charity works, a charity will take you in at whatever you know ebb that you happen to be in when you first sort of knock on the door,
Yeah.
and they'll help you and they'll steer you and they'll give you the guidance, they'll give you the advice. But there has to come a point where, much like a driving instructor, yeah, you have to go out into the big wide world with these new set of skills and this new kind of um, outlook, if you like. There's probably a better word for it than that, but and put those things into practice. Um, that's just my own
No,
thoughts on it.
I'm with you there. I think, like I say, it's that whole thing of not dwelling on it, and dwelling on the past and dwelling on situations too much because you'll drive yourself nuts.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I just think in life, in every single avenue that you come to, doesn't matter the situation, disability or not, is irrelevant. Um, there's there will only ever be two paths to take. You know, people go, "Oh yeah, no, there's more than two." There's not. There really isn't. Yes or no, right or wrong, left or right. I've had conversations with people before, and they've gone, "Oh yeah, but maybe," or "What if?" No, what if and maybe are irrelevant because you're not going to get a decision. You have to make a
Yeah.
decision and go with it, and live with the consequences of that. And if you and if there comes a point where you can rectify that, well, then you'll cross that bridge when you come to it, even if it means backtracking
Yeah.
and going again. It's like I think there's too many options in life in general now. Um, what if like what if is irrelevant? Like, get it out of your vocabulary, because what if you lived in what if you'd never leave the front door?
No. Yeah.
Yeah. What if I
It's that
walk out and
other.
get hit by a bus? Yeah, do you know what I mean? So
Yeah. Yeah. It's that other saying as well, is that we only regret the risks we didn't take.
yeah, absolutely, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I completely agree with that. So coming back to your initial question, what did I do after that massive digression? Um, I returned to my regiment. So I spent a further 3 years. I went through rehab. So the
Yeah.
military at the time had Headley Court, which is the Defence Medical Rehabilitation Centre.
Hmm.
Um, and I spent, I don't know how I spent there. The accident was in May. I was in Headley Court by the August. I was back at work by the December the same year. So
Whoa.
on a gradual return to work process. and I was running the guard room. So I found out pretty quickly I was never going to be a farrier in this new situation I found myself in. The reality is, with that trade, you can adapt things so much, but you need, at the very least, in my opinion, a residual limb of some description, because I found this out literally by doing it. I tried I tried to make a hoof pick, take a piece of metal, heat it up, then hammer it into an S shape. So you've got a basic hoof pick, and well, I could put it in the fire, absolutely, and I could hold it still. But then what am I going to hammer it with? The prosthetic that I had at the time, I used to wear a prosthetic arm. There's no strength in it to hold things still, and I was like, I'm not going to be a farrier. So I just ended up running the guard room and whatnot, and that's where I sort of sat in a guard room. And the military were going through their cutbacks at the time, like the MOD were going through their cutbacks, and the army was taking the biggest hit. And you have to do two jobs. Yeah, that's the fundamental thing of it. Like everyone that joins the military, whether they are a chef, a clerk, a bandsman, anything in between, doesn't matter. Everyone is trained to a standard of how to be a warfighting soldier, essentially, an infantry soldier. So you're taught the basics of soldiering, and obviously whatever you go on to afterwards, you specialise in that. But you do annual tests and training throughout the year, throughout your career. But so I spent 3 years in the military. I really learned to ride a horse again. I couldn't do some of the fitness tests, so I couldn't carry weight, so I got no shoulder. I had a prosthetic, but it won't carry the weight. It will just slip down, the prosthetic will. Couldn't fire a rifle, couldn't use one. So there was that sort of not in my favour. And but I was like, well, do you know what, rather than sort of look at the things that I can't do, and what can I do? Well, I can run a mile and a half. That's one of the fitness tests. I can carry weight in one arm. I can do other things as well. So let's just use them. Let's just work on them, and it's very easy. I could, if I wanted to, then during, and now, whinge about my situation and sort of be all woe is me and this is shit, like, or whatever. What's it really going to get me? What is it really going to nowhere?
Yeah.
So, So every year for those 3 years, I had a medical board, where it was just assessed, my year previous, of how I was getting on, and I was shown that I was going above and beyond. I was sort of, to I guess in a way sort of earn my spot in the military. And I mean, running the guard room wasn't something that I joined the army. I didn't want to sit behind the desk, but it was an easy job. It was a very easy job. The last medical board I had, I went in, and it was a bit different this time. There's a lot more people in there, so already your back's up. I kind of had an inclination it was going that way. You sort of read about the cutbacks that are going on. You sort of, well, I can only sit in the guard room. Excuse me. I can only sit in the guard room and do this, admin job, so to speak. And then it was sat in there, and the doctor said, he went after a sort of a drawn out sort of process of this meeting. So once you leave this room, you're no longer insured to do anything military ever again, and including making cups of tea for anyone other than yourself. So literally come out of the
insane.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So I came out of so I came out of that meeting. Took my uniform off, got into other clothes, obviously. Took my uniform off, went back to my room, packed my bags, because I was in Frimley Park Hospital the following day. I had my left ankle fused, and then from there I went to the Charity Help for Heroes. They had a recovery centre in Tidworth called Tidworth House, which is like their flagship one, and I spent the last 6 months of my military career there. 3 of those months were completely non-weight bearing because of my ankle fusion. So, yeah.
That's mad. That is like it's mad that specifically that specification of you're not even insured to make a cup of tea. Like
Yeah,
that's
all that's for
insane.
is like, so if I started making cups of tea for everyone, went around the corner, tripped over, and burnt myself, it'll be on my head. So
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
like, so yeah,
mad. Just touching on like your military dates, is the like probably a question you get asked all the time, but is the training what you often see depicted from TV shows and films, or is it very very different?
so I think there is a lot of shouting that goes on, and it's hard. It's purposely hard, and quite rightly so. Um, it always makes me laugh when I see people sort of like giving it a bad rap that have never even been in the military. You know, the virtue signalers. Um,
Yeah,
the thing is, right, is in the military, you will be called upon to do things that not many people want to do, um, and it takes a certain kind of individual, kind of person to be able to do it. And that individual person, as one person, sorry. So the military is massive, but each one of those people within the organisation are mentally robust,
yeah,
and you don't get mentally robust by being wrapped in cotton wool and having your hand held, while to go here, there, and everywhere. You have to, as an effective person, you have to be able to get yourself in and out of situations, physically and mentally. But the mental side of it, and the physical side of it, they're mutually exclusive. They go
yeah,
hand in hand. And like the thing is with basic military training, um, you it's split into. I guess the easiest way to break it down is it's split into sections. So you're taking a body of people
mm,
um, from civilian world, yeah, and you're going to put them into a regimented, disciplined environment, right? It's not about bullying. It's not about making you feel shit about yourself. It's about the first bit of it is about weeding out the ones that aren't mentally prepared for it, that aren't going to be mentally tough enough. Like if you collapse like a rich tea biscuit at the first sight of of of, of friction, you're in the wrong game.
yeah, yeah,
Where's the surprise? So now, granted, yeah, there are sort of there are factions, or people that that would take that authority, as directing staff, and take it a bit too far. But you get I guess you get wrong uns in every what's the word?
occupation.
Occupation, yeah. So yeah, so there is a lot of shouting going on. But I mean, once you get past that bit, it's about teaching you it's about teaching you the basics of soldiering, and, field craft. It's as a kind of a wider map reading, how to fire a rifle and stuff and whatnot, and so it is how you'd imagine it on purpose and quite rightly so.
That makes sense. I mean, one other thing I wanted to ask you, and you kind of led me on perfectly for that, is like, what's something that you learnt or did in the army that you still use today as like a skill?
Map reading a
I
map.
was, I
Yeah.
had a feeling
How
that
many
one was coming.
times? How do you? I mean, I'm not brilliant at it. I mean, if you gave me a piece of paper with drawings on it, you could probably work it out. But then, like you could, like an A to Z, an A to Z London, or a road
Yeah,
atlas.
yeah,
You can work out where you need to go and stuff and whatnot. So I think the thing is once you can orientate a map, it doesn't matter where the destination is. If you can work out which way's north, west, north, west, south, east, and west, you can kind of navigate like from that way. And it's. I think map reading is a lost art. It's a
yeah,
lost skill
yeah,
because
yeah.
everything's on like Garmin now or Tom, not Tom, Google Maps,
Yeah.
and so on. Yeah, which is all well and good.
It's
When your phone dies because you charged it up, what
yeah,
what's going on now? You're the leader, mate. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I I'm a self-confessed. I cannot read maps to save my life, and I always joke, can say that's why my other half is a scout, because I just rely on her. But then, like you say, I even when it comes to Google Maps, like my brain, the whole thing of like having to figure out which direction it actually wants you to walk because it doesn't actually tell you very
Yeah,
clearly. Those
yeah.
those things, yeah.
Do you know what? If you can read a set of instructions, IKEA or otherwise, to put furniture together, you can read a map.
Okay. What's a idiot's guide to say the first thing you need to be looking at to read a map? This could get a very long episode, but try and like condense it down. I'm just intrigued to see where you'd point people in the initial direction of.
You work out where north is, and everything else will fall into place. That's how I used to do it. You don't need to know where all 4 points are, but if you can go, well, look, there's that building over there. That's it there. Okay, right. Orientate the map. We're on to
Yeah,
winner
yeah, yeah.
now. So
Makes sense. That makes sense. What and then going from that, so going from being in the army and doing that to then fast forward, you now do modelling. Now that's quite a switcheroo to dive into. So what made you suddenly go, do you know what? Fuck it, let's try modelling.
so I think it's important to note as well that modelling is not my full time job.
Yeah.
It's by no means a full time commitment. I just haven't found that opportunity yet. But modelling was completely by accident. So I'd left the military, and a number of years I've gone through a whole character building process, to put it bluntly. Um, I had gotten into cycling back in 2016. Um, Purely because I wanted to compete at the 2018 Invictus Games, and I wanted to see if I could do it or not. But as part of the cycling thing, I what I had an Instagram account. Well, I've still got the same one, but and I was just putting pictures on. Like, as I thought, I'll just track my progress, so to speak. For no unintended, I mean, I was just putting pictures on with nothing underneath it, like no writing or anything. It was just putting them
Yeah.
on. Um, and it was through doing that, I came back through. I did a ride through France, which kind of planted that seed of becoming a cyclist in June 2016. Then by about the following year, so by about June, July 2017, the end of 2017, Zoe and Laura from Zebedee are kind of. I don't know how the initial interaction happened, but there's a lot of backward and throwing from us. And they'd seen me putting all my pictures on, and the cycling that I was doing, and the training I was doing for the games, for the Invictus Games. And that's what got a conversation started. And I thought it was a bit of a con at first. I was like, because you hear so many horror stories,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
um, and like, from my perspective, there weren't any disabled people on TV as far as I knew. I think
Yeah.
the only one that really stood out to me at that time was that the weather lady who had the one arm.
Yeah, I know the one. Yeah, I know the one. I
I
can't think
can't
of her
remember her
name.
name though.
Yeah.
Um, and I was just sort of like modelling, one arm, no shoulder. And I had a pretty poor opinion of myself anyway, like with the one arm. I was like, who's gonna hire me? Like, who's gonna have me want go on their magazine or on their advert or something, or nah. Um, but in the space of I chinned it off for a month. And in the space of a month, they were really keen. And in the end, I was like, do you know what? I'm just gonna go and see. They were it was somewhere in Canary Wharf in a studio,
Yeah.
and I turned up actually having been out the night before with a friend who makes like his own beer. So I turned up with this stonking hangover, and there are pictures somewhere of this, like of this initial first test shoot. Completely like, this ain't going to go anywhere. It's
Yeah.
not going to take off the ground in any capacity. And this stopped me halfway through and said, Dan, you photographed really well. We'd like to offer you a contract. And like, I was like, fuck off, really? Yeah. and they showed me the pictures, and they were quite nice. They were quite good. And that was that. And that's how that began. And my first job was I did a job for a small charity. I can't remember what it was called. I did that. I thought this is quite good fun. Standing in a park, having some pictures taken and stuff, and whatnot. And then and then I got cast for a Lloyd's Bank TV commercial. Um, it was Lloyd's Bank had partnered up with um, mental health awareness campaign. So the advert, we were all wearing post-it notes on our head um,
Yeah.
with different mental health ailments, and mine was not alopecia, mine is anorexia. Sorry, um, mine was anorexia, and yeah, that was my first paid job, um, and then that led to that led to I did a show for Channel 4 called Naked Beach, and that's kind of what planted the seed really after I did that, and I was like, you know what, I quite enjoyed this.
Fast forward like what, a few more years, and your Zebedee have now got their own show coming out, and also you're part of that show.
Yeah, so I've done a few jobs over the years. I'm not busy at all. I probably a good year. I'll probably do 3 or 4 jobs, and that's it. So and it's just the way it goes. It's just for me, it's just become like a nice thing to have, if you like, a nice thing to do, like something I
Yeah.
enjoy doing. But yeah, when I got asked about new model agency, I went, oh yeah, sure, I'll give it a go. I'm not expecting to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Um, and so I met with I can't remember the chap's name now. I met with so when they're looking
Dom?
at who they're going to cast. No. It was someone from Channel 4 or the production company. I can't remember which. When they were looking for who to cast, I had this meeting much like this. Had a bit of a laugh, sort of dive beneath the surface of various areas of my life and modelling and stuff, and then said, yeah, they'd love you to be involved. And I was just like, why? I'm not the busiest person. They're not going to get much out of me. So, um, yeah, that's how I ended up on the model agency.
What was that experience like of doing the recording for New Modelling? Was that what the record was taken from, or was it going into studio and doing all of
No,
that
no.
stuff?
So the new model. So it's an observational documentary
Yeah.
at the foundation of it. So obviously Zebedee are based up in Sheffield, and
Yep.
obviously there's people on the books that are all over the place. Down south, up north. They've got offices in America, Australia as well now. This was focused mainly on the here in the UK, but
Mm.
so we had a team up north and a team up a film crew up north, a film crew down south. I was living in London at the time, in South London. So I sort of I was seconded to the Southern team, and I
Yeah.
just said,
Yeah.
look, I've got a full time job. I work remotely, but you know, it's I need a little bit of warning, and then they're as accommodating as they could be, which was they were good, it was Harriet and Misha were so Harriet was the producer and film camera operator, and Misha was sort of like the assistant. I'm not sure that's the right term. Um, had a bit of a laugh. It was nice. It was good fun. It was really good fun. Like yeah, so it was.
Yeah.
I enjoy it though. I enjoy being in front of the camera. I feel like the camera's like my
Yeah.
stage. I like any opportunity to connect with an audience and like tell a story. Um, so yeah, it's good. I mean, to be honest, it's something that whilst New Model Agency is focused purely and predominantly on modelling, my goals and aspirations is to get into television and presenting. Um, so yeah, because I just love the opportunity of connecting with an audience and like
Yeah.
entertaining
I
people, and so
I mean, it's funny because from doing this podcast, the amount of the people with disabilities that I speak to that want to get in the presenting space, but more so to get the messaging out, that like, not to bang on the buzzword, but that we're all average Joes. Like that's the when you speak to the majority of us, the reason why we want us to get on telly is because you don't see it.
Yeah. I just think as well, like you say, all average Joes, you're absolutely on, on the mark there. But I think as well, I think we're just average Joes living in extraordinary circumstances, and the
Yeah,
extraordinary is, I mean, by it's an asset. However you want to look at it, it's an asset. Living with a disability, whether it's congenital or if you've acquired it, is it you've been able to live with a change. Yeah, if you've acquired it, you've kind of normalized the change situation. You've dealt with it, however you deal with it. Equally and oppositely, I can't talk for the congenital side of it, but you know, but I just think to be able to function in normal life, given the circumstances you've got to live with, I think I think it should be celebrated anyway. It's
yeah.
not many people given the opportunity would want to do it. So
It's the other thing as well, which has come up quite a few times on this is like 90% of the people with disabilities, we are problem solvers. So 9 times out of 10, people can't find a solution for something. Ask your nearest disabled person, they can probably look at it from a different lens and go, "Why don't you try this?" And they go, "Oh, I didn't
yeah,
think about looking at it like that way."
yeah, I get it all the time. Like this desk that this computer sat on, it's a corner that I put it together myself, uh, and
Wow.
it's like I'm not bragging or anything. You can't see it, but um, yeah, I think I ended up putting like stories on my. I started like making a story about it on my Instagram, and I stopped halfway through. The amount of messages that people sent me, you've left us hanging, Dan. It ended up becoming a highlight. I ended up doing the whole thing. Something that should have taken 2 hours took me a
Yep.
whole day. Yeah, because I was filming it as well.
I mean, that's the
But
worst thing when you come to film stuff. Like people don't realize how long that stuff takes. Like it might just be, like I say, a quick story, quick this, quick that. But then you look at the clock and you're like, "Fuck! It's like 7 o'clock at night. What are we doing?"
yeah, but no, it's yeah, it's I've lost where we were now. So
No, we were talking about Sympathy, a new model agency. But one thing I did want to ask you is from stereotypes, like going army into modeling. It doesn't tend to be the career path that people follow because stereotypically modeling seen as a bit airy fairy, a bit everyone. I think everyone initially thinks of modeling as like Britain's next top model and all of that stuff. So like what's that journey been for you? Have you had any stick from your army mates? Anything like that?
um, no, I haven't. To be honest, no,
No?
it's no the modelling. Up until New Model Agency, modelling was something that I kept. I didn't really give it a lot of airtime.
Yeah.
Um, I think because it never got to a point where I could just say this is my job, this is what I do.
Yeah.
So I was very much like, if that happens, then we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But really, at the minute, I'm just doing something purely for the hell of I enjoy doing it. I enjoy the people that are involved
Yeah.
in the industry, um, and it's yeah, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I do get some stick, but it's just friendly banter.
Yeah.
One of my best friend Pete in the army was my best man at my wedding. Yeah, over the years, used to send me like Zoolander, like gifts and stuff, and I
Yeah.
just replied to him, yeah, you laugh, Pete, but there's a lot more to life than being really, really incredibly good looking. So, or ridiculously good looking, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Which is a quote from the film, if no one knows, but yeah,
But
but
yeah,
it's
it's true. I think one thing that I found interesting was I remember, we did London Fashion Week together. When people found out that I'd worn makeup for that, they were like really shocked and was like, "Did you not feel uncomfortable, or did you not do this?" So I'm like, it's for the grand total of like one day. If your masculinity is that fragile that you can't handle having some purple eyeshadow and some lippy on, you might need to look at reevaluate there.
yeah, no, makeup's my favorite bit of the whole day. like of
Yeah.
any job. Like when they go makeup, I'm like, oh, it's just like some ASMR experience. Like, yeah, just paint my face, just do me up like Ziggy Stardust or something. Yeah.
Fully pampered. Dad loves a bit of a pamper.
I do, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think I wanted to ask you, obviously being an amputee, I know we spoke about this when we did London Fashion Week together. You briefly touched on prosthetics earlier in the conversation, but what you told me in that conversation when we had it at London Fashion Week was that prosthetics are actually more of a pain in the ass than people kind of tend to think, because they are. I was always thinking like, oh, you definitely want them and you'd always use them. You don't use them, and you explained that reason why. So I just wanted to dive into sort of like your journey with prosthetics.
Yeah, so I wore prosthetics, a prosthetic arm for ooh, a number of years. Excuse me. I wore prosthetic arm for a number of years, um, and I just wore it for everyone else. Like I was very. It never. It took me a good few years after the initial injury for me to come to terms with my image, if you like. So I used to wear a prosthetic arm, um, for other people to stare at. Cause, if I've got this pretty cool, funky hand poking out my sleeve, people are going to think it's cool, isn't they? And
Yeah, yeah,
whatnot. And that was it. The reality with that is, and given my amputation, I don't have a stump. So um, in the summer was the worst. I used to walk to work or walk to the tube station to go to work within 5 minutes of leaving my front door with all my prosthetic on underneath. And bearing in mind, I'm only wearing a shirt as well. Um, I'd sweat through before I got to the tube station. And you just think I've got 8 hours to like this now. I'm just going to stink all day long. And so I used to hate summer, um, and that. But it was just it had no functionality. Well, it was just an elaborate shirt filler, really. Um, and it's one day I decided to stop wearing it. I was like, oh, I don't need the arm. I don't. It's more like a shield, really, to hide behind. Um, and yeah, I just stopped wearing it one day. I was very lucky. I had a hand. Um, it was called a B bionic hand, um, and I was very lucky because the hand was given to me by one of the military charities. They paid for it, and the hand was like £10,000. So when I gave it back, I said, look, I don't need this. I don't wear it. I would like somebody to have this that might not be able to afford to actually have one. I'd rather they use it as a gift, so to speak, to like give
yeah,
back
yeah.
if you like. But yeah, this thing is you can't do that. It's seen as like a what's the, because it's been used by someone else. It's like sharing
Yeah, I'd
pants, isn't it?
imagine.
Really? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's that. Yeah, it's that whole undergarments you can't hand back. So it's almost the
Yeah. But
same
then
thing.
I was just like, but what do you mean? It ain't been up my nose. It ain't been up my
Yeah,
arse. No, it's fine. So
yeah, yeah.
let no. At the end of the day, it's a business, isn't it? So it's and that's that's yeah. I didn't quite like that. I was like, I'll keep it. I'll just give it to someone. But the thing is, then you obviously got to go for the rigmarole of getting it fitted to a socket. So yeah, but no, I give it back. I think they ended up using it for people that were looking at getting one, so they used to try it as a trial thing.
Yeah, yeah, that
Um,
makes sense.
but
What about like,
yeah,
because I remember we had a conversation about the weight of them. I mean, you briefly touched on it there, obviously walking through tube stations and stuff. But I couldn't believe when you
oh yeah,
explained the weight of them.
yeah. They're quite heavy. Like the more you have on a prosthetic arm, the heavier it is. Which sounds obvious, doesn't it? But um, yeah. So for me, because I've only because there's nothing underneath here, um, um, you've got to spread the weight out. So the reason I used to sweat so much when I wore it was underneath my shirt, I looked like a pack horse, uh, full of harness. Um,
Yeah.
the socket, or the plate, sorry, used to come all the way down to just um, just above my waist, and then the strap was like I used to put my arm through and strap it up across the chest. It was a massive thick piece of leather that used to come round. Yeah, and it was the way. Oh, I don't know. When I lost my arm, I remember I got into a set of scales. They had the scales that were on a chair being wheeled through the ward, and I remember I lost just under a stone, like literally overnight, like because of the arm and shoulder going.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just heavy. And what I found with the arm was throughout the day, obviously you sweat, you have to keep pushing it
Yep.
up, and then it was just so cumbersome and annoying, and I'm better off without this. So
That makes it. I
and that, but
mean,
that
I
that
think. Sorry, I think from like a outsider's perspective, it's almost like how could you deal with not having it because it's more of a help than a hindrance. But it's interesting to hear that that's like completely switched around.
Yeah, it is a help for some people. I mean, if you've got like a residual limb and you've got like your shoulder and a bit of your arm or a bit of your elbow and whatnot, it's a massive help. But when you've got absolutely nothing, not even a stump to put something on, it's kind of like probably better off just getting on with life like this, with just my one good
Yeah,
hand and work. But I say that it, the you have to go through a process of getting there. What
yeah,
I've come to find and what I've discovered for myself, isn't necessarily the one size fits all solution to everyone else that goes through a similar situation. So
yeah, yeah. What what's the journey been like for your mental health? That journey from obviously your accident to then obviously going through that journey with prosthetics. Is obviously there's a lot more in between that. But what's the journey been like with your mental health?
do you know what? Ironically, losing the arm didn't affect me that much. What I struggled with the most was leaving the military, um, and the readjustment. So I was quite prepared to come out into this side of life, the civvy street, as we used to call it. We called it, um, with a disability. In the 3 years before I left the military, I relearned to ride a horse. I got my fitness back. I even gave rock climbing a go, completely, unadapted. Um, and I remember on the rock face, I was in Spain for that. On that rock face, I was thinking, like, if this is what it's going to be like to adapt to this way of life, I've got nothing really to worry about. How wrong was I? But yeah, I was prepared for coming into civilian world with disability. I wasn't prepared for the rejection.
Yeah.
Um, and the first, it wasn't even a year. It was like 8 months. I left the army. My last day in the army was the 28th of September 2012, and I was back at home on the 1st of October. And I I thought I'm gonna have a month off to unwind, like get used to this slower pace of life. Because in the 10 years previous, routine was a massive part of
Yeah.
life. Um, and so I always knew what time I had to be somewhere, where that somewhere was, in what order of dress, and I knew what I was doing when I got there. And then you come out into the civilian world, and you've got a free reign of the manor essentially. Um, so I thought I'll have a month off to unwind and get used to this. I got bored after 2 weeks, and then I began applying for jobs, and it was kind of marrying up like my experiences. Like anyone that's in the military or anyone that's been in the military, you get them to sell themselves to an employer or someone that is looking for a skill set. More often than not, they're not very good at it. I still ain't very good at it. Um, but that 8 months became 327 job applications, of which not one led to anything sub basic whatsoever. Not even a networking opportunity for anything. I was running parallel with all of that. I was living on my savings. I got a lump sum from being in the military, which went to my little my little my bank account, if you like, which was nice, and a very meagre pension, sort of like for thanks for coming, basically. Um, but after sort of 8 months, it had all gone, and that's what I was living on. And I wasn't living above my means or anything. I was at home with mum, well, essentially mum and dad, which isn't a bad thing. I quite enjoyed living at home and so on, but um, and but it was that whole independence thing. I'd spent 10 years living in the army, doing my thing and whatnot, and you sort of compare it. It's like living at home. I've got no money. I can't get a job. And the final nail in the coffin, so to speak, was I had to re-tax and reinsure my car. So I went to pay for it online, and my card declined. And I thought, that's strange. Did it again, declined again. Checked my online bank, and I had 15 pence to my name. Everything had gone. Um, and
Wow.
Yeah, they'd gone out to work. Mum and my stepdad had gone out to work, and I got out of the shower, and I saw my reflection in the mirror, and I was no colour, gaunt, overweight, unkept, and I just went. I'd never thought of this. Is a snap decision. I never thought of it or entertained it before. I just went. If this is what life's got in store for me after everything I've been through, I'd really rather not be part of it. And so tried finding a way out. And I was halfway through doing it, and I was like, for some reason, what's my mum going to do when she finds me? What's she going to say? And so I stopped, and I was like, I need to get back to London. How the hell am I going to get back to London with 15 pence? Um, and then in a sudden twist of fate, my mum approached Help for Heroes and said, like, Dan is, not very well. And so she never knew how bad it got until about 3 years later. But um, in a twist of fate, I was offered a job as a chauffeur. They were
Oh
based in
wow.
London. Um, and a company called Capstar, and their remit was to employ the veteran community at the time. Further afield now, they look at the emergency services now and whatnot. But veterans of the military, with a percentage of the workforce being what what's called wounded, injured, and sick, and that just encapsulates people that have been injured during or because of their service,
Yeah.
which I fell into. So they offered me a job, and they were really good to me actually. Offered me a job. I lived in a spare room of a friend's house in Wokingham. Then
Yeah.
I had to leave. And ended up in a village just outside Windsor called Raisbury, and I was living in a static caravan, like the mobile
Yeah.
them
I know
holiday
those.
homes you get. Lived in one of those in someone's garden, but when I say garden, this garden was like a 3 acre field. Um, so I lived in that. But I mean, the only luxury of that place was that it was plumbed into the grid, that I could run the taps and flush the toilet and not have to worry about the cesspit truck having to, clean it all out,
Yeah.
basically. So I was living there, and it was an interesting time, really. Um, I'm just coming out of a financial kind of disaster, if you like, um, and once all my bills were paid, I was left with like not much, and so I usually find that some months I'd be chasing like the last week and a half. The only thing I could really afford, you know, uh, was custard cream biscuits and cheap and cheerful tea bags. So I'd live on custard creams and cups of tea, breakfast, lunch, and dinner until the next payday came. Um, but sometimes there was some small military charities got in touch. Um, they could see how I was living, um, and so a couple of times, a few times, I get a knock on my little caravan door, and it'll be an Asda delivery van with like a month and a half worth of shopping. I have like tinned
Wow.
things and tinned fruit and stuff, and so I wouldn't have to worry about shopping for a couple of months. which is nice. But I'd never asked for it. It was always because they'd intervened because we'd crossed paths or something. But how I was living to the people I was driving in my chauffeuring job, you couldn't get polar opposite if you tried. But I was surrounded by affluence and success on a level that you probably see in made up films and whatnot. It's celebrity at some point, so at various occasions. And towards the end of that job, actually, there's 8 of us were like hired help for the Royal Mews, so like the transport
Wow.
section for the royal residences, which was really didn't drive anyone. It's mainly like diplomats and stuff and whatnot, but on state visits and stuff. But yeah, you couldn't get pet opposite for try. But one day, I don't know. I do want to know where it came from. I was sitting in my caravan, dipping my custard creams in my cups of tea, right underneath Terminal 5's kind of take off and land in the area, depending on which way the wind's blowing, isn't it? But
Yeah. Yeah.
every 90 seconds or whatever, my TV signal would drop out because a plane had flown through the signal or whatever. And I just remember sitting thinking, there's got to be something better than this. Like, there's got to be. And like, literally, I just decided that any opportunity I get, I don't care what it is. I don't care if I can do it or not. I'm just going to say yes, see where it takes me. And the excitement for that, which is I'm more kind of aware of now than I was back then, but the thing that excites me about it is what will I learn or who will I become in the process of doing that thing?
That's really interesting. And it's like, I think that's probably a life lesson for a lot of people. It's like almost that mentality of throw enough shit at the wall and see what sticks.
Essentially, yeah. And so saying yes to opportunities, and then one day I had a bit of an epiphany. I was drive a couple of people, very successful, and I was like, what are they doing when no one else is looking? Like, what's giving them their get up and go? Because if it's working for them, why can't it work for me? And I began to like pick like character traits of these people. I couldn't tell you in a bullet point list what they were, but essentially it was the value of time. Like, what can you do before your day starts? Essentially, to give you an example of a scenario, what can I do before my day starts to make my day a bit more productive and I can feel a bit more productive? And one guy to drive for, I was seconded to for a little while. Used to work in the city of London. 3 times a week, he would be in the gym. And he was in the gym for like 6 in the morning. He didn't start work till 9. Didn't have to be in the city till 9. I was like, wow. You can get up a few hours before. Or you can start working or doing his thing. A good few hours before. He actually starts. But he doesn't. When he doesn't have to, I'll do that then. So I'd get up early. I get up really early. It's not feasible in every situation. Like, sometimes I'd have to be somewhere like stupid o'clock in the morning, like 3 in the morning. Like, I'm not going to get up at midnight and go for a walk somewhere. But I used to get up like 2-3 hours before, go walk around Racebury Village, and it was always surprising how much more awake and ready for the day I felt. And that's what transpired into the opportunities and saying yes. And so off the back of that, I can't tell you the exact dates, but this is 2014. Throughout 2014, I had learned to fly a plane. I didn't get a license. Learned to fly a plane. Could you imagine me as a pilot, a commercial pilot, and walk out the cockpit, all the passengers get off? Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'd learned to fly a plane. I had given wing walking a go, and then it was towards the end of 2014. I got an email from this organisation called Road to Recovery, and they were putting together the world's first all-disabled crew to row unsupported across the Atlantic Ocean.
Wow.
It'd never been done before as an entirely disabled crew. like people have been part of crews, and like some of half of them have been like, you know, disabled in some capacity. And so I thought, well, I know nothing about rowing, but I'll learn. So, and I think the beauty of doing something that you've never done before is if someone's going to teach you how to do it or show you a way, you won't go in with any bad habits, so you'll learn the proper way. Um, and that was a year. That was a year-long process, and I just lent myself to it. And there were plenty of naysayers around. Yeah, I was the only upper limb amputee to turn up, like to do it. Everyone else was like leg amputees. So,
Yeah.
and over the course of that selection process, the group got progressively smaller, and I got to do some pretty cool things. You know, Durham Regatta I ended up doing. So we had our ocean-going rowing craft as part of Durham Regatta, which is pretty cool. And I did the final selection with 3 of the selected 4 crew, and I got all the way to the final 5, and I was number 5. So I got the phone call to say, look, thanks for everything, but we're going to go with someone else. And I was like, sure, no worries. Thanks for the opportunity. I've really enjoyed it. I wasn't disheartened at all. I'd learned so much about myself and what I'm capable of, in spite of my limitations, in spite of the naysayers, and quite a few of them. That I just thought the takeaway lesson I got from that, which I still use today. Well, I still stand by it vehemently now, but there's no shame in giving up. There really isn't. No one should be made to feel ashamed for giving up. But at the same time, there's no success in it either. And success isn't just winning. It isn't just getting to the end first, or whatever the case may be. But if you can wholeheartedly say at the end of whatever it is, and go, I tried my absolute best here. Like I put everything into this, not half-heartedly either, then I think that's a success, because you the destination isn't important. Yeah, it's the journey that is, which sounds really cliche, I know, but I stand by that unequivocally.
100%. I mean, yeah, that's probably some advice that anyone can take into their lives, and probably a good point as well to wrap up the episode as well. I'm just going to hit you with the last question, which is,
Yeah.
what's one piece of politically correctness that you really strongly agree with or disagree with?
Oh, I don't like cucumbers. That's not a thing. But no, do you know what? And I've said this before in conversation, and in conversation, is the whole thing with being called inspirational. Like, I don't agree with it being a negative thing. Like, someone comes up to me if I'm doing my shopping or something, or cycling, whatever the case may be. If I'm doing normal things, someone goes, I think you're inspirational. In my mind, I'm just going shopping. I'm just doing
Yeah.
what anyone else would do. But you got to look at it. It comes from a place of positivity. It comes from a place of love, and not that as a disabled person, not that it's my responsibility or anyone's responsibility to kind of nanny the thing. But if someone's going for a really shit time in their life, no one knows, right? If someone's going for a really shit time of their life, and they find somebody, with a limitation, cracking on, smashing life, whether you are or not is irrelevant, right? Or you think you are or not. And that person, that's their pickup, that's their thing that could probably go, do you know what? If that person can go and get on with life with an arm missing, or legs missing, or in a wheelchair, or whatever the case may be, and not let it phase them, what's my excuse? So, and I think that's every time I see, oh, I'm not your inspo porn, whatever. Like, find something happy to write about on social media. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really tricky one because I understand the background of it, but I'm with
Yeah,
you. Like, I think my biggest challenge with someone, because it literally happened to me in the gym the other day. I was on a hack squat and mid set, some guy. Why do people feel the need to do it mid set? Comes up to me and goes, "I'm really sorry. I've seen you and your partner training in here, and you're very inspirational to me, and it's amazing to hear." The worst thing is with that, and I don't know whether you feel the same. I never know what the fuck to say. I'm like,
thank you. That's
thanks,
it. Thank you.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's
It's
like when you get a compliment. You don't if you get given a compliment, you don't have to give one back. Do you know
yeah,
what I mean? If you
yeah,
become awkward about it, it kind of invalidates the compliment in the because now the person that said it feels
yeah,
awkward, and not that's not my problem, but it's I don't know. It's a minefield. Like people would agree with it, people would disagree with it, and I think that's the beauty of
yeah,
open conversation. Like no one's going to agree with everything you say. I
yeah,
don't want everyone to agree with everything I say, but at the same time, you know, my views are completely different. My views and values are completely different to someone else. You know, it's I
yeah.
do find now, um, I do find now with society in general, people will only give attention to something that will get them likes on social media, which is more often than not, negativity is what gains traction. So all you got to do is put the news on. You don't even need social media anymore. You know?
It's something I think I battle with as a creator all the time because I'm very, yeah, I mean, Dan, you've met me and very happy go lucky, very chilled, very open to have any conversation, sort of very self, nothing's off limits. But then it becomes very difficult because I'm almost seen in the minority because I haven't got, not, I haven't got a problem every day, but I'm not in that space where I feel the need to constantly shout about a problem. If a problem needs shouting about, I will shout about it. But
Yeah,
that whole thing of like accepting the situation for what it is, it's like this whole thing. Like I bang on about trains, but it's just the easy example. Like trains stations are some are inaccessible, some are accessible. Yes, I'm going to
yeah,
campaign to try and improve that, but I am fully aware that tomorrow I'm not going to wake up and every train station is accessible. So I've just got to deal with that shit and control that as best I can. But I don't. Yeah,
yeah.
it's
No, no.
really tricky because I don't want to sound like I'm hating on people that do that because you need those people around because it constantly brings attention to it.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
it's really
I completely agree with you as well. Like the whole accessibility, like the amount of times I got on the tube in London and I've been down the escalator. Oh, where's the lift? There isn't one. And I sort of think, well, if I
yeah,
was in a wheelchair, and I've been in a wheelchair, do you know what I mean? You know, when I was transitioning out of the
yeah.
military, I couldn't get onto part of my resettlement course because I couldn't access the building. Um, um, but like, yeah, it's I used to get on the tube and like the lift was out of service. Okay, so what's the solution here? Like, what if
Yeah,
the other day, so I was up in Newcastle, I was coming back, the train I was on was cancelled, so we all had to get off, and the train was only 2 carriages long, and I was thinking, well, it's 4 o'clock, it's going to be rush hour, and we got there, and there was a chap in a wheelchair, like, you know, one of them big units, you know, the really big ones,
yeah,
like
yeah,
motorized one, and they were like, you could just tell 2 carriages was the replacement train. It was already full up. So you got all of my lot from the previous train, right? And then everyone on the train as well. And I don't know what happened because he was down further down the corridor, but I did see him sort of wheeling off, and I was just like, "This is that's not right. Like that's not right." But I don't
it's
think
really
it's for me to hold that argument. Really, it's
yeah, I mean, not to do a deep dive into the train, sorry, but this is actually, and I've mentioned it on here before. This is the main reason, like, I don't work uptown. So I live 40 minutes outside London on a train, and everyone says like, oh, you could go earn more money working in town. There's so many more opportunities, and while I 100% agree with that, my main reason for not working uptown is because I can't trust the station that the train gets stuck at is going to be accessible. So then I'm just stuck on this train till someone figures out. Oh wait, some guy got on with a wheelchair got on this about an hour ago.
mm, yeah, it's a minefield. I just when you look at like London 2012 and like the fallout of the Paralympics, like it was a what's happened to that wave? What's happened to that?
Yeah.
Because it's like
Yeah.
now it's kind of like what the fuck just happened? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's all everyone got caught up in the hype. I did as well. That was why I started my swimming career. Fell in love with 2012, and that was that. But then, as I say, the attention's gone from it, and it's about how do we bring that attention back. It's really hard. Like, I think it all comes from making people realize that you're one mistake, situation, thing away from being someone with a limitation, and
Yeah.
that's what people can't seem to wrap their head around. It's like I always say, you've got a 99.9% chance of ending up similar to me. I have got a 0.1% chance of becoming you. So like,
Yeah.
wrap your head around that.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? It's, when you look at the statistics around disability, like you could wake up tomorrow as a completely able-bodied person with with we use the word normal for ease of conversation.
Yeah,
Um, wake up tomorrow and be in a completely different life situation. So
100%. I mean, you're living, breathing proof of that. You
my
you
life
couldn't have
changed in
known
the
what
blink
was
of an
gonna.
eye. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you couldn't have known that that was gonna happen to you. It just happened. That was that.
Well, that's it. That's it. Yeah, and it's and I think that's just a good way of looking at it. Is to go. It's again, it's cliched and it's very much proverbial, but you can only play the hand you're dealt.
Yeah,
And
100%.
yeah, it's up to you if you put that hand down or if you play it. So not that I'm a gambler, but yeah.
But basically, life lesson today: get better at poker.
Yeah. Responsibly, I can't play it, so yeah.
Neither could I. So we can be in that boat together. But just to finish off, where can people find you if they want to follow what you're up to, what you're doing, and where you're at?
Yes, do you know what? I'm prolific. It's just popped into my head. Instagram. So I'm the one-armed wonder on Instagram. All one word, all lowercase. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's where I do most of my hanging around, as it were. Yeah.
But yeah, I will link all your details below. But thank you so much for coming on. It's been a great episode. Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of the Not Quite Podcast. Please make sure you follow us on TikTok and Instagram to get regular updates about the podcast.